call this August 24th, 2023 Board of Education regular meeting to order. George, can you take the roll?
Yep. Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mrs. Cobain?
Absent.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Ms. Stochek?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Here.
We
We
have a
all
quorum.
rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda are district goals. Our district goals remain the same: financial prudence, academic achievement and growth, and community engagement. A great example of community engagement is happening tomorrow, Friday, August 25th. Prior to the Strongsville High School football opener, a community tailgate organized by our athletic department and featuring over 40 local businesses will take place from 5 to 6:30 p.m. in the parking lot right outside of Pacatian Stadium. There'll be free food, games, and more. All are encouraged to stay for the Strongsville-Solon football game that will kick off at 7 p.m. Next on our agenda is public comment, and we do have one. Bonnie Tennis, if you could approach the podium, state your name and your address, and you have approximately 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Bonnie Tennis. I live in 9407 Brushwood Lane, Strongsville. Okay, I still would like to talk about the kindergarten. So today, I looked into some expenditures, a lot of expenditures, I would say, preschool versus kindergarten versus the gifted. Preschool in Ohio is not mandatory, yet Strongsville provides a very good service for preschool. Spending per preschool student as high as $19,000 per year. And that's for 2.5 hours. That's per school expenditures based on Department of Education. There is also, based on the reports, it's similar to, the numbers are similar to that. So I don't understand how can we spend so much money on preschool yet it's not mandated, but kindergarten, some way the kids getting punished, the kindergarten, they're not going into the full day kindergarten. Now, the full day kindergarten started in 2014. This district made a mistake during the strike. A lot of money was wasted, and then suddenly 2014 they start charging money for the kindergarten. Why? Why not offer the kindergarten and pay for it, or don't pay for it and don't start the full day kindergarten until you know you can afford and you pay for all the kids? But you never did. You keep charging and charging. The preschool is only $140 a month, but now the kindergarten is $2,300 just this year. So I do not understand that the district finds money also for gifted. Gifted, Ohio requires for school to identify the gifted, but it's not required to serve. But yes, Strongsville spends $700,000 on gifted. $19,000 in 21, $19,000 per kindergarten. That's for 2.5 hours. So if you divide that 116 students, that's like 30-some thousand per preschool. Its own building, but now the kindergarten is mandatory, but yet somehow Strongsville punishes the kids and the parents that can't afford it. That is not right. And I understand the school could not afford it in 2014, 2016, 17, but there is a lot of cash now that it's, sitting around that it only costs $700-some thousand for all the kids to pay for the kindergarten. Now we see that just this last year, 2023, there was access of the property tax over $3 million. That would cover 3.5 years or more. Yeah, that's what it is. The report says. Its report says there. It says that it's over right here, the revenues. It's 65, and it says the district receives 61 in general property taxes, 22, and receives 65. That's excess of over $3 million, and yet the Strongsville can't afford it. Now we have $25 million that were transferred into the fund from the general fund, so it would not show up on the forecast. Maybe because the levy is coming, so people would not see it, but take 3 million out of that, or 4 million, and pay for the kindergarten children. Now, I understand someone might say there is no room, but why is it their preschool access kids are placed in the Chapman, where that Chapman should be used for kindergarten because it is mandatory? That school could be used for that, but yet you're using for preschool, and I don't understand why. Now, mistakes were made. Maybe there is not enough room, but mistakes were made by the district by getting rid of the schools. In 2016, at the meeting, it was said that if there is a need for additional classes, this building will be used, and administration leadership will go somewhere else. But you know that it wasn't meant to be, because if it would, then you would be out of here. Then one of the schools, either the Drake or Albion, should be left alone. Actually, to do a maintenance just for a year, I mean, you acted so quickly. If you would just wait 1 year or 2 years, it's like maintenance for the Albion school. It was here on the forecast. It's only $5,000, and the demolition cost $600,000. Now, in addition to that, now you're going to pay for mobile classroom at Chapman Elementary. That's where you're overflowing the preschool children. And that's going to be $169,000. So now you're punishing the kids, the kindergarten kids. You don't know how it feels if the two friends live on the same street, go to kindergarten, one goes full-time, one doesn't because the other one can't afford it. It happened to my kids. My son, when he had friends on the same street when we moved in, their parents worked in a school system. They were in the gifted programs, and my child wasn't. I tried to get my child into the same classes because they weren't friends anymore. My son was very upset. So in the middle school, it took me until he's got tested, that he's got into middle school with those other two, and they became friends. But then he went to high school because they were gifted. They went through different area, and my son was selected into, not selected, but he was proposed by the counselor at different courses because he wasn't gifted. And then suddenly they weren't friends. My son was really, really stressed out and upset. So by you doing this, by not offering and not paying for it, especially now when there's almost 70,000 cash laying around, and it's only 900, 700, or 800,000 a year to pay for the kindergarten. Now, you should find a room. It doesn't matter where, because you made the mistake. You either move the preschool kids somewhere else, or don't accept any more preschool children because it's not mandatory, but the kindergarten should be taken care of. So, and another thing is, there is money for everything else. There is money for, okay, I don't mind teachers getting raises, but we already talked about it. The salary schedule is not very friendly for some of them, and for some of them is. As I was telling you, in the 5th year, with this 2.75, it looks like it's innocent, but the teacher can get $940 a month access just by switching from MA 15 to MA 30 on a 10-year, or $800. That's a mortgage. That's a mortgage payment. That's every month that teacher's going to get that. That salary schedule has to be modified so it doesn't favor the 5th, the 10-year, and the 15-year. It can't be like that, because some teachers are punished because of that. And it would be nice if this district would come up with the idea and say, every year we're going to do 2%. So then the teachers, like it happened in 2013 or prior to 2013, they got 0. And these teachers are getting high money. So believe me, there are teachers that work 30 years in a district and making almost the same amount of money as some teachers that work only 15 years. How is that fair? How is that fair? Or teachers in a preschool make more than the teacher that teaches calculus or math. You know, everybody says that, oh yeah, teachers should get paid the same. Well, do doctors get paid the same? Does the doctor, the surgeon, does the pediatrician, do they get paid the same? No. Based on the level of difficulty. This should be also based on the level of difficulty. It should not be, and the salary schedule should reflect some of it.
Bonnie, I'm
And-
sorry, I don't want
yes.
to cut you off, but
I'm sorry, but yeah. That's probably it. I get a little, and I would like to say that you're trying to demolish all the schools that are in 60s, built in 60s. There are hundreds and hundreds of homes that are built 1960s, and kids go to those homes, but you're saying that the schools are too old. There is a house, just an example, 1967, appraised at 400-some thousand. This person pays $9,000 in tax. And the house is not going to be demolished. So why the school being demolished? If the schools need extra money for fixing or for this, should put a levy and say we need $1 extra million. Right now, maybe the $1 million is not enough. So you should say for operations less, but more for the fixing. But nothing gets fixed. The schools get demolished. It's almost like homes that are not taken care of. You know, nobody modifies, nobody upgrades, and then the house just deteriorates.
Thank you, Bonnie. Next on our agenda, we're going to move on to recognitions. OSBA Student Achievement.
I actually don't remember what month we went to the administration building for our student achievement, but it's been a busy summer, so we finally have our guest of honor here this month. So we would like to have John Henry come up to the podium, as he is the administration office choice. So it's said about John that he always takes ownership when things don't work out, but never accepts the credit when things go well. He is always there to help students, parents, and staff when needed. His knowledge of special education far exceeds most, and he works to ensure the district advocates for students. He always does the right thing, even when the path there is challenging. Compassionate about helping families understand special education policies and procedures, and he's always helpful and supportive of teachers. And I feel that he's somebody that's behind the scenes a lot with things, but is very, very imperative to the everyday success within our buildings. And I was hoping that maybe you would say a few words about Everyday's Like for you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Thank you, board, and everybody nominating me for this award. I'm humbled by it. I come to work every day, and it's a responsibility to serve kids, serve this community, the families, and the children. I enjoy collaborating with the teachers and all the staff. And if it's that extra mile that says I go, it's probably because I feel like there's a commitment to, serving the best interests of our community and our district. So thank you for that award, and I appreciate all your humble. Those are great words, so thank you.
All right, John, come up here so we can shake your hand and congratulate you appropriately.
Thank you so much.
Congrats, John.
All right, next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes from our June 8th, 2023 meeting, our June 29th, 2023 meeting, and our July 13th, 2023 meeting. All district video and audio recordings will be a permanent part of the minutes.
Mrs. Hausman, it's part of the consent agenda.
Yes.
You asked for a motion. That's fine.
Okay.
And she can if she wants.
She can if she wants. I was just saying they're part of the.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, George, you're up.
Sorry. Good evening. So a few items for the treasurer's report for your consideration. First is the financial report for the month ended June 30th, 2023, which is, since it's part of the, or since June is the end of the fiscal year for 2023, I wanted to go over the supplemental report, which compares the data compared to last year and also against the forecast. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. Same format that we've been using. So overall, and how we did against the forecast, revenues were $159,000 favorable compared to the forecast. Expenditures were $878, more or less than the forecast, for a favorable impact in the cash balance of $1,037,000. Overall, the general fund finished the year with a $46,048,260 ending cash balance as of June 30th, and it's a decrease of $16,292, or $16,292,000 from the previous fiscal year, which part of the decrease is moving the $25 million to the Fund 070. Comparison of revenues for June compared to the previous June. Revenues were $228,000 higher, and it was primarily due to state revenue. Fiscal year to date, comparing the fiscal year of 2023 compared to 2022, revenues were $4.4 million higher, and local taxes and state reimbursements were about $3.6 million higher. And part of that contributed to, in 2022, we had a large refund for property in the district that our tax revenue was reduced by. State revenue was $508,000 higher, which was due to changes in the state funding formula, and all other revenue were about $339,000 higher. And as mentioned, as it compared to the forecast, it was $159,000 favorable. It was a net investment earnings were $268,000 higher than forecasted. In total, investment earnings was $1.8 million for the year, and then our Medicaid reimbursement was $171,000 less, and it's more of a timing issue. We usually get it in June. They were delayed in sending it out, so we're going to receive it. I think we're going to receive it in September, and we may also receive this year's in June, so that might receive double. And we may receive two payments during the current fiscal year, one for what was due for last fiscal year, and then if it's paid on time, the one that's supposed to be due for this fiscal year. And moving on to expenses. Any questions on revenues? Moving on to expenses. Monthly expenses, June of fiscal year 23 compared to June of fiscal year 22 were $411,000 higher for the month. Fiscal year to date, expenses were $104,000. $25 million of that was the general fund transfer, the 070 fund. Overall, if you comparing the years, it was $30 million higher. Factor out the $25 million, operations were about $5 million higher from the previous year. As it compared to the forecast, it was $878,000 less, which attributes about 1%. And to highlight which line item was different, a lot of the line items were under by a little bit, but with all the line items, it accumulated to $178,000. And that concludes the report for June. For the next meeting, if you recall, in June, we passed a temporary appropriation for fiscal year 24. Now that hiring is being complete, I'm going to start working on the annual budget for fiscal year 24, and then in September, I'll present a budget forecast and the annual budget for your consideration. And then again in November, we'll do the fall 5-year forecast, which will be similar to the September, but it'll be trended based on actual payrolls and benefits up to that point. Any questions on the financial report for June? And then item 2 is the financial report for the month ended July 31st. Item 3 is the annual investment report. This is a requirement that I submitted to the board by August 31st and submitted to the state auditors and the Ohio Department of Education by August 31st. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that a resolution accepting the fiscal year 22-23 annual report of commercial paper holdings be accepted pursuant to board policy 6144 investments. Per the policy, the treasurer shall prepare annually and submit to the board, the superintendent of public instruction, and the auditor of state on or before August 31st, a report listing each investment made pursuant to commercial paper notes and bankers' acceptances during the preceding fiscal year, income earned from such investments, fees, and commissions paid in connection with the investments, and any other information required by the board, superintendent, and auditor of state. The exhibit contains commercial paper holdings for fiscal year 22-23, and the district did not invest in any banker's acceptance notes during fiscal year 22-23.
This is not part of our consent calendar, so do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Bissell.
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. Motion passes.
Yep, thanks. The next item is SCF grants that were given over the past 2 months. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the following grants from the Strongsville Education Foundation be approved for fiscal year '24. We have a middle school Makerspace Snap circuit kits for $750. A Kinsner Reach Out to Recess grant. This will benefit all elementary schools. This is a student at the high school is doing this as part of their Girl Scout. I forget the exact term. Part of Gold Award? Yes, their Girl Scout Gold Award. It's going to impact all elementary schools, but the guidance counselor from Kinsner is taking the lead on it with her as a district representative. At Chapman, $682 grant for classroom carpet. Muraski blocks and storage for $800, and middle school sixth grade inclusive day camp for $2,000. And I believe this will be for the students that don't go to the camp, that stay behind, that they're doing something for them at the middle school.
That's great.
Any questions? All right. The next item is amendments to the fiscal year '24 temporary appropriation. The two adjustments are for the SEF grant, and then one of our state grants, we received a little bit more money, so adjusting for that. And then the last item is selecting a delegate and an alternate for the OASBO Capital Conference business meeting that is held on November 13, 2023.
Do we have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Sharon for a delegate and Laura as the alternate.
Any others? All right.
All right, we just need to vote on it.
Do we need to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right, do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Bissell. Want to take the
Any
motion?
discussion?
Any discussion? I'm sorry.
Is Sharon the delegate because she's not here?
Go for the vote.
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. Motion carries.
And with that,
We'll let Sharon know.
that concludes my report.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Iba?
Thank you, Ms. Hausum. We have a couple items to share with you and update. First of all is the district purpose, mission, and strategic plan. So be it resolved upon my recommendation that the Board of Education approves the purpose, mission, and strategic priorities that encompass the district strategic plan. So as we all know, probably about November of last year, we started working on our next strategic plan that would be rolled out in August of 2023. And just as a reminder, that work started with a lot of external community engagement and internal staff engagement as well. So we had over 1,000 people participate in focus groups, individual interviews, surveys that set the foundation of our strategic plan. So the part that George has on the board right now is just a graphic overview of our strategic plan. And a part of this process was identifying our organizational purpose. We've talked about in the past, that's our why, our just cause, our aspirational goal that we have. And through the feedback of the various stakeholders and talking with the board and our stakeholders, we felt strongly that inspiring and empowering today's learners to build tomorrow's leaders is the foundation of the work that we do. And I've shared that in prior board meetings of that. And so that sets, the focus of our work, and our mission is the what. What are we going to do to achieve that? And as it's stated there, as a school community, we will design premier educational experiences, that develop innovative, resilient, collaborative, global, and empowered students who are architects of their learning, equipped to thrive in their future. And if you take a look at those competencies that are listed in there of innovative, resilient, collaborative, global, and empowered, that really is our North Star. That's that center circle of our Model Mustang. Those are the skills and competencies that we want to build within our students from preschool all the way up to seniors. And that's integrated with the rigorous content and curriculum we have in our classrooms that creates what we term deeper learning. Those create meaningful, deeper learning experiences for our kids so that they graduate from high school not only with the knowledge necessary, but the skills to apply that knowledge to new and unique situations. So that visual of the Model Mustang being the center point of our strategic plan, it really is our North Star for the work that we're doing. What you see as those interconnected, varied green circles really show that this plan, there's no aspects of this plan that are in isolation, but all work in concert with one another to support our overall purpose and mission and the development of Model Mustangs across our district. And we've set those in 4 strategic priorities, those being transforming teaching and learning, leveraging funding and facilities, aligning staff and resources, and cultivating culture and climate. So I will spare everybody from reading each of those because we'll share this with our staff and community coming up on Monday. But George, if you would click on the other link that I think you have up, the strategic plan. So this is a document that we've also put together, and if you could scroll down until you get to the first strategic priority. So it has a lot of what I've already shared, and if he keeps going, go one more page, George, if you would. So you can see that first strategic priority of transforming teaching and learning. This document then lists exactly what are the objectives underneath that strategic priority that we're going to focus on in the next 3 years. And so those are, for this one, there's 4 separate objectives that will receive our attention and focus. Some of them are being started this year. Some of them are slated for next year or the year after, as this is a 3-year plan. But we hope as our community and our staff read this, they can say, hey, this aligns to feedback that I gave. Because that's what this all came from. This wasn't just us sitting and saying, hey, what do we want to focus on? It was, what is the feedback we received from all of our stakeholders, and how do we organize that around 4 strategic priorities, and then what are the exact objectives that we're going to put into place? We've already actually started this work this summer. What I'm excited about is we have chairs of each of these objectives that oversee that, and many co-chairs that are led by our administrative team from all aspects of our administrative team. And that work had started over the summer and will continue on throughout the school year. So underneath some of these objectives, for example, 1.1 is an objective that's in store for this school year. That's already started. There's action steps that are being developed. Our first professional development day was really focused on kicking off 1.1, which is about creating those deeper learning experiences for our students across the district. There'll be 60 seconds tomorrow that highlights that professional learning that happened, and a part of it is Jenny talking about the Model Mustang. But action steps are in place and are moving forward. And so with both of these documents and more this summer, Dan and I collaborated on a landing spot on our webpage that will have this and more with regard to our strategic planning, so our community can access these documents easily, see updates, and as we go throughout this process, we will share our progress updates and how we're moving through the strategic plan. But that is the first item that I wanted to share, is kind of the culmination of the work and what we've done so far to get the strategic plan up and rolling. So it's very exciting, and I appreciate everybody's feedback and support and help as we've gone throughout this process. But any questions from the board in terms of strategic planning at this point in time? I do plan on having a mid-year update to give more details about progress checks and the work that's being done, but just as a high-level overview, if there's any questions, I can answer that at this time.
I mean, at the very least, someone should say thank you. It's been a lot of work. It feels like it's a miracle, but we now, I mean, all the work that came through from the beginning, it was one of those activities where you're wondering, are you ever going to get done? There's so many details to manage, et cetera, but I think it's in great shape, and thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Rich. The second item under my agenda, be it resolved upon my recommendation that the Board of Education approves the Model Mustang. So, George, if you want to click on that. So, again, this is that center point of our strategic plan. our 13-year commitment to students, about the skills that we want to develop and foster within them. So I've shared with you the 5 competencies. Below those competencies in the bullet points are the big picture characteristics that we're looking to develop. And what's not here, but has been developed throughout a collaborative team of teachers and administrators throughout last year, is breaking this down even further to say, why is this important? What does this look like in the classroom? And as we look at each of those, for example, collaborative, the first bullet point says values, individual contributions, and teamwork. There's additional details of what should that look like in practice. And our teachers have started, a select group of them have started last year, and others have worked, and we've rolled this out to our staff again this school year, about how can we take a look at some of those characteristics under collaborative, the specific I can statements about what we're trying to accomplish, and as we approach our lesson design and instructional planning, how can I deliberately and explicitly embed that into our classroom? So I had the honor last year of working with one of our teachers. Her name is McKenna Coyle. She's a kindergarten teacher. And one of the things that she was working on is, how can I get my students to be more collaborative in their writing, in their discussion of questions? So I just want to commend her and other teachers like her that didn't say, well, they're 5 years old. How are we going to build these skills? But explicitly looked at how she set up her groups, how she structured that, how she coached the kids to ask meaningful questions, how she had systems in place of visual checklists for the kids to see, to understand when I'm writing, what is something I can ask one of my table mates for, and what is something that I need to ask the teachers for. And so as young as 5 years old, we're building those skills within our kids, and that will progress throughout. So I want to give kudos and thanks to Jenny for really taking the leadership role in this and having the vision for bringing this a reality. I want to thank Erin for her important part, because the foundation is built on strong knowledge of curriculum and teaching and learning, and that's been the previous 2 years of building that part of deeper learning. And so it's an exciting time for us to put it all together. It's been kind of a 3-year journey of setting the foundation. But again, wanted to put this publicly on the board agenda, because I know this is a shared amount of support and focus for the district. So again, appreciate the work that's been done by our team to make this a reality. And I wanted to pause to see if there's any questions or feedback on this one from the board.
Just to echo what Rich said, thank you. I know I've been in and out of a couple of the buildings, and I see this posted, and it's exciting. It's exciting work.
It really is, and appreciate the acknowledgement of the board of that work, and later the voting on this to officially approve this as our strategic plan and our Model Mustang Portrait of a Graduate. So if you hear, I failed to mention, if you hear in school districts our Portrait of a Graduate, this is our Portrait of a Graduate. We just call it Model Mustang.
I do have one question, Cameron. We've had the Model Mustang for a handful of years now.
Yeah, five or 6 years now, yeah.
And I remember somewhere along the way someone mentioning that we've kind of fine-tuned some of these bullet points. That's accurate?
That is accurate.
So I just wanted to say that we're not just going to set this aside and it's going to stay firm. Like, we're going to continue to look at it and evaluate it and adjust it if necessary as we go, correct?
Absolutely. So, yeah, we started maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We started with the Portrait of the Graduate, the Model Mustang. When we hit the pandemic, we lost our momentum a little bit and regained it. But yeah, when we revisited a couple years ago, we said, hey, this made sense 5 or 6 years ago, but we need to make some adjustments, and we made those and did that in collaboration with our teachers. And it's been a powerful thing, and that's anything, whether it's the strategic plan or the Model Mustang. We need to continually have those opportunities to review and update when necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah. With that concludes my section of the report, and I'll turn it over to Steve Bruckner, our operations manager, for his items for this month.
Good evening, everyone. A couple items in the business services section. The first one is the copier and printer maintenance agreement. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the operations manager be authorized to renew the agreement with Meritech for a service and supply program for the district's copiers and printers. The agreement is to be effective for 1 year, from September 4th, 2023 to September 3rd, 2024, and the cost is based on the monthly meter program. The second item is the bus routes and stops. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that all bus routes and bus stops be presented by the Transportation Department for the 23-24 school year be approved, and that the operations manager and the supervisor of transportation be authorized to adjust the routes and stops as necessary during the school year. The third item is the security service agreement. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the security service agreement with Allied Universal for services at Strongsville High School. And then the last section is gifts. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the following gifts be approved. The Southeast Security Corporation donated 50 Epson BrightLink 695Y interactive projectors, 50 projector mounts, 50 Epson interactive touch modules, and 50 Epson interactive pens and cases at a total value of $38,295.50 to the Strongsville City Schools Technology Department. And the Strongsville Athletic Boosters made numerous donations to the athletic program for the 22-23 school year, totaling $122,048.96 as listed in the attached exhibit. And that concludes my section.
Any questions for Steve?
I have one question. On the bus routes, on number 8, number 8, it's the same child's name twice. Is that an error? Should that be someone else, or will they think someone's missing when there's a child that's not getting off the bus?
You say page 8?
It's number 8 on the school buses and routes.
Oh, his name is transcribed.
It's approximately 2:20 p.m. Just so someone doesn't think a child's missing or the wrong name's not on there.
I'll have to look and clean that up, but it's probably just a clerical error.
Okay.
No questions, just want to thank, especially the athletic boosters, everybody for the gifts, but I know that they do a lot of fundraising throughout the year, so we appreciate everything they do for our athletes.
Steve, can you, for public's sake, can you tell us about the donation of all the projectors?
I will, at this point, turn it over to David Binkley to answer that question.
Aha! Thank you.
So we have a great relationship with Southeast Securities, and they were doing a job where they were replacing these projectors. These projectors were purchased less than 5 years ago, and their replacement cycle was up. So instead of getting rid of these devices, they reached out to us, and we said we'd love to have them. So it comes pretty much with everything that you originally purchased with them, plus more. So these will help us as we've had, about every year we have about 10 to 15 older projectors go for various reasons. And some of the supply chain is still having issues with some of the newer projectors. So it will keep us good for this year and hopefully next year as well. We've already had to dig into a couple of them as we've had some electrical surges in the district just even yesterday. So.
Well, thank you to Southeast Security and to you for making this happen. This is a great resource to have on hand. We appreciate that.
Next, we have the curriculum report. We have one item. Be it resolved upon my recommendation that the following student shall be placed for the purpose of clinical field experience and methods field placement. So Megan Murphy at Whitney Elementary School with Kristen Russ. Any questions on the curriculum report? We have no items under student services for tonight. Under human resources, item number 1 is the abolishment of a non-certificated position. Number 2 is the resignation of a non-certificated person. Number 3 is the resignation of certificated staff. Number 4, we do have a few administrative office leadership retirements coming up here shortly. Sad to see them leave, and I'm sure we'll recognize them before they go, but I'm excited for them to start the next part of their journey in retirement. Number 5, we have the retirement of non-certificated staff member. 6, it's the appointment of certificated staff. Number 7, appointment of non-certificated staff. Number 8 is the appointment of home instruction tutors. Number 9 is the appointment of certificated district substitutes. I apologize, my board docs is not moving. So I'm looking at the district substitutes and I'm saying Tara Brusky is not a substitute. She's one of our employees. So I'm caught up now. Under number 10, appointments of certificated substitutes. Under 11, appointments of non-certificated substitutes. Item 12 is the appointments for certificated athletic supplemental contracts. 13, non-certificated athletic supplemental contracts. And then under 14, we have the appointments of certificated supplemental contracts prorated. Under 15, we have a change in status for our non-certificated employees. Under 16, we have educational upgrades for your consideration. Moving on, 17, we have leaves of absence for certificated staff, and 18 is leaves of absence for non-certificated staff. Item 19 is leave for disability for certificated staff. 20 is unpaid leaves for certificated staff, and 21 is unpaid leaves for non-certificated staff. Number 22 is the recommendation to approve the following volunteers for that 5-year time limit. 23 is the consideration of volunteer coaches. And then we have 2 corrections for you. The first is a correction to the August 3rd agenda in the HR section for the video truck. It should be the stipend for the video truck assistant, corrected the stipend for auditorium stage crew. So that's the correction there. I'm sorry, did I skip one with my? Okay, hold on, let me go back. So that was 25. 24, we did have another correction for a supplemental contract. It's a changing Brittany Cermak to Jen Orlowski as the senior class advisor for Strongsville High School. And then number 25 I read. So any questions on the HR report? Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Dave for his item under technology.
Good evening again. I've practiced this one a couple times because it is a little clunky in the writing. But be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the following amendment to include additional funds and services be made to the final year of a 3-year contract with Agile Sports Technologies, Inc., DBA Huddle, from 8/1/2023 to 7/31/2024. This is an amendment to an agenda from July 12, 2021, Section B, Business Services, 3, Athletic Department, agreement with Huddle from the 300 Athletic Fund for $20,500 increase to the final year of the agreement for a total of $34,000 to increase the level of service to the franchise package. Supplied by Agile Sports Technologies, Inc., DBA Huddle, invoice H00016400, payment of $13,500 is applied, leaving a remaining balance of $20,500.
All right. Questions, comments for Dave? You want to start?
Sure. So I just, I want to thank you for the work because the update was great. It gave us all the information we wanted, but what I'm going to recommend or suggest we consider is delaying this for a year. At the end of the day, our audience, our viewers are getting football for free, and this would mean we'd start charging right away. And so I think we need to keep it free for as long as we can, and then let's take the year, get our plan in place, because we're going to have to do something, right, next year.
Correct.
So I think I'm more comfortable with doing that.
And the more I thought about it as well, I thought we're starting the season already. If we already have, some of our fans watching it for free, I would hate to turn around and then have them, charging them. So I kind of agree with Rich that if we start at the beginning of summer and then we're up and running, then by the time the season starts next year, we'll be, we'll be ready for it.
I agree, I don't have anything additional there,
All right, so I think we're all in agreement.
So we'll have to pull that from the agenda.
Procedurally, I would recommend
During the
to change it from the consent agenda and then voting on it separately, however you choose to vote on it.
okay.
Sure.
So I'm going to change it from, just give me a second. Oop, on the wrong item. Push this. Okay, now it's its own individual action item.
Okay. Right, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Bissell. Any discussion? And I just want to reiterate, like, we want to do it, we just want to take our time, and we'll have it all up and running for next school year.
So we're voting on how it is now, not voting on what we're
Right.
doing.
Right.
Okay.
Any other? Okay. George?
Ms. Stavcek?
No.
Mrs. Bissell?
No.
Mr. Miko?
No?
And Ms. Hausum?
No.
Motion
Motion does
is-
not carry.
Dave, before you could stay seated, are you good with the direction? Do you need anything else at this time?
No, I don't need anything else, just as the vote of the board.
Just continue to move on and plan and get ready for the fall of '24 season?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move on to a report on Polaris Career Center. Michelle?
Thank you. School year has started well. Things have been quiet, which is a good sign. One thing of note is the pre-veterinary building and addition and renovation is almost finished. They're still waiting for an HVAC unit. So we're really excited to see what that looks like when it's all finished and to see those kids in their permanent home where they're going to be caring for animals. It's a really fun place if you ever get a chance to check it out. And our numbers have, from Strongsville specifically, we have continued to have great attendance and participation in Polaris. So this is excellent news for both Strongsville and Polaris. And I think that's about it for right now. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, board liaison reports, City Council. City Council has been on recess the month of August, but will return for their next meeting on September 5th at 8 p.m. at the Mike Klinich Senior City Council Chamber located at 18688 Royalton Road. I skipped legislation. I did. My poor docs was sticking as well, sorry. Let's go back to Rich and legislation.
So I think I'm ready to take a chance on our legislature because they're on vacation also. But they will be back in September. A few things that are in place for this upcoming school year. The lawmakers did expand the free lunch program. So students who were receiving a prorated lunch now can receive a full, qualify for a full, for covering the cost of the entire lunch. So that's a good thing. They, in the last budget, they did allocate money for free feminine hygiene products, are available to all students, so that'll be good this year. And then our Ohio schools will be required to align our curriculum with the science of reading, and I'm glad that we're ahead of the game and we're already doing that. So kudos to us. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Moving on with our board liaison reports. Strongsville Education Foundation. Again, thank you for their donations of their grants. Their next big fundraiser is Casino Night, November 11th of 2023 from 7 to 10:30 p.m. at the Ernfelt Rec Center. There will be gaming, delicious food and drinks, and great company. Try your luck at the poker table, roll the dice at the craps table, spin the wheel at the roulette table, or try your hand at blackjack. Use your funny money to win some great raffle prizes. So mark your calendars, November 11th, 2023 for that. And that concludes the report. Strongsville PTA Council.
PTA Council has not yet had their first meeting of the year. All the PTAs are starting to meet at the middle of September. But that doesn't mean they're not active. I know there's fundraisers already going on at different buildings, fun little events, welcome back type events. So we look forward to what PTA Council has to offer us this year and how we can support them. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Board committee reports. Finance Committee.
We haven't had a meeting since the last meeting,
Correct. We haven't had a meeting.
and the next meeting is to be announced.
We'll probably have a meeting here in the fall once the elementaries committee gets
Aha,
finalized.
that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Policy Committee.
I was just informed shortly or recently, that we're going to have another policy committee coming because he has another stack of policies to take a look at. And we are still working out some details from the last stack. Cameron and Haley and I met this week to kind of go over some details for that. So we are in the trenches of the policy, and it looks like we're going to be there for quite some time. So I'm looking forward to that. That concludes my report.
Send snacks.
Facilities Committee. You want to take it, Rich?
We have our next meeting on October 17th, 2023. At that time, I would anticipate that the elementary facilities will have had their report, and we'll be kicking it off to the larger Facilities Development Committee to review and continue that work. So October 17th, 6:30 p.m. in this building.
Thank you. Business Advisory Council Committee.
Our next meeting is Friday, September 22nd at 7:30 a.m. in this building. That concludes my report.
All right. Next up is the adoption of the consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type/action consent, which items constitute the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. And we already did that. Anything else? We're good? Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Bizzle. Any discussion? No? Okay. Can you take the roll?
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. Next up, superintendent's timely information.
Well, got a few slides George will put up here shortly. I just want to thank everybody, all of our staff and students and parents for a great start to the school year. We're up and running. It's hard to believe we're already a week in. But some of the things we wanted to highlight at the different levels as we got the school year started. First, at the elementary level, some of you may know, in the PTA, in collaboration with our maintenance department that built it, has a brand new pavilion outside of the building. And it's a beautiful outdoor space that can be used by the Muraski community for outdoor learning, for a variety of different activities. But they had their official ribbon cutting here earlier this school week, and just a great space to continue to have learning beyond our school walls. So thanks to the generosity of the Muraski PTA, as well as Keith and our maintenance team for getting that up and going, ready for the start of the school year. So if you haven't been over there, over the last couple of years, they've done a lot of nice enhancements at the playground, and right behind the playground is that pavilion. So go out and enjoy. On the next slide, George. At the middle school level, obviously we had a lot of different back-to-school events. One of the things that they did prior to the start of the school year was sixth grade orientation, gave our sixth graders the opportunity to come in, learn more about the school, get used to the classrooms. One of the things that was cool about that event is that our seventh grade Mustang mentors were key in planning it, welcoming and creating that experience through a variety of icebreakers or tours of the school, or the dreaded how do I open my lock. I was at brought back memories. I was at the middle school the first day of school, and I was helping out many confused students on how to open their locks, and it brought me back 2 days of being a middle school principal, and that's all I did the first few weeks of school. So I was there today, and it looks like they're well on their way to getting that all figured out. And then finally, at the high school has a freshman orientation day, but one of the things that goes over all the getting used to the school and rules and procedures and all that. But on their first day, the high school, they created kind of this focus of STRONG, which is, you could see, as an acronym for safe, trustworthy, respectful, own it, never settle, and get involved. And so they kicked off the school year with a pep rally to go over this, build some ownership around the building, and obviously, as you could see in the pictures, a lot of students, and there was some staff that also participated in the events to get kids excited for the new school year. I will say, we have a student advisory group, and one of the things that is on their radar for this upcoming year is school spirit. That was something that they wanted to talk about. And for a handful of years, we didn't have any pep rallies. And when you don't have pep rallies, as it may sound silly, but kids don't know what those are and how to act or what to engage in. So it's nice to see those returning to the high school and the work the high school team and staff is doing. And, I know our kids are vested in how can we create more school ownership and spirit at the high school level. So this was a good kickoff to the year. And then finally, George, on the last slide, a few upcoming dates. Labor Day coming up on the 4th. That's no school for the district. And then we've got, it is time to look at if your students are interested in band or orchestra in 5th grade. There will be an informational meeting on Monday, September 6th at the high school auditorium to get that process started. And then if vocal music is your interest, there'll be a Meet the Choirs night at the high school at the auditorium on September 13th at 7 p.m. And as we already heard from Mrs. Householm at the beginning, it's great to have it back. We haven't had it for the past few years, but encourage everybody to come out to the tailgate. A lot of vendors. As Denny told me the other day, there is going to be a ton of food there, so come hungry and enjoy the games and the inflatables and the food, and then head over to the stadium to hopefully see a first win of the season for our Mustangs. So with that concludes the timely information.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is first reading of bylaws and policies. We have several bylaws and policy revisions on tonight's agenda for a first reading. Next on our agenda is Board of Education Other. Do we have any others?
I just want to correct Cameron, there's no hopefully. We are going to experience a win with the Mustangs, and I hear there's so much food, they're going to have a cabana. And if there's Barry Manilow music, it'd be a Copacabana. But that's it.
Meeting notifications, a special Board of Education meeting. Board retreat will be held Thursday, September 7th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. in the meeting room of the Administration Building, 18199 Cook Avenue, Strongsville, Ohio. This replaces a canceled retreat, which was scheduled for July 27th, 2023. A regular Board of Education meeting work session will be held Thursday, September 14th, 2023, 7 p.m. in the meeting room of the Administration Building, 18199 Cook Avenue, Strongsville, Ohio. And last, a regular Board of Education meeting will be held Monday, September 25th, 2023, 7 p.m. in the meeting room of the Administration Building, 18199 Cook Avenue, Strongsville, Ohio. This is a change of date from Thursday, September 28th, 2023. And we do have need for executive session.
To consider the employment of a public employee.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Bissell.
Ms. Stachek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. We'll enter into executive session at approximately 8:05. We will not, I don't see any need to continue in public session, so I'd like to wish everybody a great night and go Mustangs.